Newland Furness, set in the little hamlet of Newland in South Lake District, Furness region. The hamlet itself comprises of manager's house, workers' cottages, people who once served at the furnace. There's mills in the hamlet as well, so it wasn't just furnace work. That's the main furnace stack. And the street sign comes from a nearby town, Barrow in Furness, where, before a modernisation programme was undertaken many years ago, there was a street called Newland Street, and it was called Newland Street because it led down to the foreshore on the tidal channel between Walney Island and the mainland. And the company that owned this furnace took its ore there for shipping. And because it was known as the Newland Company, thus was the street called Newland Street. Now, an enthusiast historian retained that street sign many years ago when the town was sort of redeveloped, and had kept it safe, and then brought it along when this project was started. We won't go inside just yet because it's not raining, so I'll scuttle inside when the rain starts, and then maybe pop out later if it stops again. Just here is a huge hematite boulder that was excavated when they were building the Dalton bypass, and the contractor kindly agreed to bring it here as like a specimen of the material that was wrought into iron here. There's worn down millstones built into the structure. There's some shepherding going on the fell just across from the furnace. That's what you can hear. The main stack from the other side. And here we come to the wheel pit, where a great water wheel revolved and powered the bellows inside. This wheel pit has been the subject of some excavation work by the team that are working on this furnace, and have been doing so since 1988, so it's coming up to 30 years now. There's an archway recently constructed. The previous lintels had fell away, but that was where the water wheel axle went inside the building to operate the bellows. I'm standing here on one of the bearing pedestal blocks, and there's a hold down bolt, or remains of one, and another one there which would have supported the bearing within which the water wheel axle revolved. Just up there is the water leak, which comes from a weir higher up the beck, which brought the water to the wheel. And an interesting feature here is these lintels, these concrete lintels that have been put in, to consolidate the structure. Once spanned, and you can see this line of what you could only describe really as being like a doorway. And again on the other side, which would have given access to, if you like, the inside of the diameter of the wheel for whatever purpose. Yet to work that one out. Possibly to do with greasing the axle or repairing the water buckets on the water wheel itself. There's a little glimpse inside. We'll go inside later if the rain gets heavier. Just doing some outside work at the moment. This archway recently put in, built on a timber former. There was just nothing here before, just a collapse where the original lintels had given way and the structure had begun to sag, you know, perhaps over the course of 100 years or so. All nicely reconsolidated now and made good. This is that axle block where the two studs were. There's more studs, but those are the only two visible at the moment with all this autumn leaf work going on. And another curious aperture just opposite. So, Newland Furness. Big old structure. Where shall I take you next? I think I'll take you to the Leat. Show you the Leat that drove from Waterway. And here, just about 100 metres further upstream from the iron furnace, is the weir. And on the far side over there was a sluice gate which fed the water into the Leat, which powered the water wheel at the furnace and the mills further down. This is the line of the Leat from the weir towards the furnace. This is the course of the Leat. Comes round that corner from further upstream, from the weir that I mentioned earlier, comes under this trackway, and then disappears under the loading barn. But just before it disappeared, there would be a takeoff coming parallel to that wall and feeding onto the water wheel in breast-shot fashion. So we're now above the wheel pit, looking down into it. I'll just come round this fence post. Wheel pit from above. It's not fully excavated yet. If it ever gets fully excavated, we expect to find a culvert or a tail race where the water, having done its duty on the wheel, would have then been taken via a culvert back to the stream. And on the structure here you can see this linear remnant of structure, which is presumed to be like a roof stroke enclosure for the water wheel itself to stop, I don't know, it being adversely impacted by wind, or buckets getting filled with leaves or whatever, you know. And the culvert disappears under the structure because there was a corn mill further downstream, if you like, so the water went on also to serve that purpose. You know, there's something about having a camera in the hand, you always forget stuff, and then you think you've done a clip, covered a patch, and then you walk away, you think, meant to mention the so and so, and it's this. Here we are again at the wheel pit, and on this end here there's a beautifully sculpted radial cut, if you like, into the mason work, which we infer denotes the radius of the wheel, with clearance obviously. So from there to the axle point down there is sort of the radius of the water wheel that's sat here in this wheel pit, driving the bellows. This is the loading barn or charge house, where material was brought in at a higher level, i.e. the level of the top of the furnace itself, in order that material, i.e. limestone, charcoal and iron ore, could be tipped straight down the neck of the furnace. There's a little plan view of this part of the hamlet and the arrangements. And this is that leat which I was just showing you a moment before, to where the water wheel was. We are here, the water wheel was there. And behind me are what used to be the massive charcoal barns, what am I saying? Where, being mostly charcoal fired, these furnaces, huge amounts of charcoal had to be stored up ready for the campaign, as they used to call it, of ironworking, and typically efficient. All the charcoal was stored at just the right level to be wheelbarrowed across straight into this loading barn here, so no lifting involved, just wheel it straight across into here. Here is a helving hammerhead which was retrieved from the structure when they were doing renovations relatively recently in the corn mill, as it happens. But this huge great hammerhead would have had a huge wooden hammer shaft, as it were, and been tripped by cams driven by water wheel, and the hammer would come down, thump, forging iron, and then the cams on the shaft would lift the hammer up again, the workpiece would be moved or rotated, and the hammer would come down again. And some remnants of corn grinding wheels, again from other parts of the hamlet. So the material would have been wheelbarrowed. Here's a wheelbarrow with cement in it because there's some structural work going on, but would have been barrowed across to the furnace head. This is the top of the furnace stack, beautifully reconstructed by the astonishing team who've been working on this for 28, 29 years. Marvellous. And they still haven't bloody stopped. Look, it's still going on. It never ends. A reconfiguration or reconsolidation of a structure. Literally, what? 1749. I can't do the maths when I've got a camera in my hand, but it's like 250 years or something, you know. And the detail around this furnace top. See all this paviour work. And the view from the top. This elegant stacked top structure was commissioned by English Heritage to protect the structure below from any further decay and to facilitate its reconsolidation. Reconsolidated casting half. Oh. And just up there is a very telling keystone in the archway. HAR 1854. Harrison, Ainsley and Roper. It's starting to rain again. Oh, I'll have to go inside. This is coming in a bit of a disjointed order because I have to keep nipping inside when it rains and then pop out when it's not, because there's only sort of like 2-minute windows of dryness outside. It's just one of those days, grey, dull, rainy. Anyway, I'm stood here now in the casting half. Okay, you see these lintels behind me. Let me just turn the camera around. So out there, structure covered in ivy and such forth, defines the casting floor where there would have been sows and pigs laid in a sand bed and fed into such would be the molten iron when the cast was ready from casting half here. Now all this structure when it was first taken on was hideously dilapidated. All these girders have been put in. Beautiful corbelling work done by the magnificent volunteers. Been working here for so long. Quite a common feature on casting half are these little niches, both sides. The purpose of which is not fully understood, but I imagine it might be somewhere where you might put a beam across to act as like a fulcrum point perhaps for a jemmy bar when you crack the cast open, as it were, and you know, the clay plug, and let the iron come forth. But I'm only guessing. Here we have the remains of a sluice gate from the Leet. Damn good find that, to have it in sort of semi-intact condition. So when you wanted to let the water go, you'd wind the handle, up would come the gate, and when you wanted to shut it off for the night, you'd wind the handle back down again and shut the gate. Marvellous. All this would have been roofed, of course, back in the day, but it's not now. Anyway, let's go inside. So, where the cement mixer is currently mixing material for those working above is at the very base of the furnace stack. You'll have to excuse the lighting, it is very dim here, but it's up there. And again, lots of work has been gone on here, putting in these girders, because it was all just falling to bits 30 years ago. It was ruinous, almost at the point of being beyond repair. But it was just caught in the nick of time. And now we come to the blowing half. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon.
And this aperture here was where the bellows tuyers would have fed air into the blast. And again, all this masonry work here, structure, the beams, the wooden beam, the masonry work itself was just a ruinous running pile of gravel. Now look at it, beautifully reconstructed, consolidated, made good for another 100 years. It simply is tremendous. And the floor above even, that was open to sky. Now it's been bridged across with flooring boards. And the architecture in here is just amazing. All these little portals and apertures and windows and doorways and things. This camera won't do it justice. The sort of complexity of features. Beams, mezzanine floors. Up there, there's like a little chimney stack, denoting that there was another floor on these beams above my head. Someone kept his hands warm, or brewed his tea, or whatever. And here we are on the inside of that recently reconstructed archway. I hope the gentleman working here doesn't mind the film going on.
Not at all, sir, not at all.
Just inside here, a big rock pedestal, again on which an axle bearing would have sat and been bolted down, of course. And then, new to me now, very recent excavation work has been going on in here, whereby it seems that they have found the true working level of the furnace, because everything we'd been walking on before was just the level to which the debris and infill had accumulated over the years. But now we have the true working level. I'll just go down there. And what has been unearthed are holding down bolts. Put them on there. Oh, it's raining.
Sorry about that.
Hold down bolts. Not sure if this is focusing. It's struggling to focus in the light. Hold down bolts. Oh, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Oh, that's much better. Even I can see what I'm pointing it at. On this paved area, and it is believed that these hold down bolts held down cylindrical cylinder bellows, which was a later development technologically in here, because they would have started with the conventional sort of big blacksmith bellows type things, leather and wood, but then cylinder bellows came into force and were considered to be more efficient and productive and such forth. Cylinder bellows cast and manufactured probably at Backbarrow, which is only about 10 miles up the road. Yes, the height of this structure and hall is quite considerable, really. So what should we call this? The bellows hall? The blowing chamber, that's what it is, the blowing chamber, yes, of course. Some of the original fire bricks that have come out of the stack. The light's very poor under here. HAC, Harrison Ainsley and Co. BN1, not sure what that stands for. And this one here, a sort of radius quadrant, is speculated to be a dam stone from the casting half. The structure looking over the blowing half, which was in a hideous state of collapse when it was first come upon.